Candice, we are going to start today's episode with a little bit of a story.
Ooh, story time.
Story time with Scott.
Ooh.
Fancy. So the story I have for you, I want you to picture where I'm going to put you.
Okay.
We are going to be in Baseline Tap House, having just gotten kicked off of Rise of the Resistance because it went down right before I got into the ride vehicle.
Oh, sad.
It is kind of sad, but it's okay.
All right.
That was the time I was testing out the single rider line.
Okay.
It was fine.
Fair enough.
I said, okay, Rise of the Resistance isn't going to happen. Let's just go have a beer at 11 o'clock in the morning instead.
Seems like a fine exchange for me.
It was a perfectly fine exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a nice quiet beer. I'm sitting inside Baseline Tap House, watching people, watching squirrels, all of that kind of stuff. And I decide, you know what? It's time to go get on the Skyliner and go over to Epcot. I just get myself up out of Baseline and I start marching across Hollywood Studios from Baseline towards the front of the park. So you can picture right where we're at. We're walking past the Indiana Jones attraction,
yes.
All of those kind of things.
Yes.
Off to my left as I'm leaving is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm walking, just minding my own business, mind you, I notice a little kid in a stroller.
Okay. As there are many.
There are many. This little kid in the stroller goes, and I'm like, oh, God, it's going to sneeze. It's going to sneeze. And sure enough, chew, projectile sneeze.
Ew.
Right at me.
Ew.
Projectile lands on my bare arm.
Oh.
Gross.
So gross.
So gross.
So gross.
But kind of so funny at the same time. It's like, what are the chances that I walk by some 18-month-old or younger that just has that tickle and sneezes projectile in Hollywood Studios? Why does that happen to me?
That's a separate discussion.
That's a completely different discussion. But I wipe it off the best I can, and then I take the hand sanitizer out of my backpack, and I basically bathe in that moment.
Of course.
Because what else can you do?
Right.
And I just get back on my merry way. So I tell you that story because today we are going to be talking about maybe some parenting tips. Like covering your child's mouth when they cough or sneeze to help keep others healthy. But that's going to be kind of the topic that we're going to talk about today. Does that sound fair?
That sounds fair.
Okay.
This could be an interesting discussion.
It certainly could. Hey, welcome to Hangin at the Hangar Bar. I'm Scott.
And I'm Candice. We're here to chat all things Disney as child-free Disney adults. Stories, snacks, and a little magic along the way.
Grab a drink and get comfy and come hang out with us.
All right, welcome back, Hangar Bar crew. You are hanging at the Hangar Bar with Scott and Candice. Thank you so much for joining us today. In this episode, as Scott alluded to, we are going to be talking about maybe some observations that we have made through the parks on our various visits or on cruise line or wherever we have happened to be where we've noticed these things that have scorched their way into our brain enough that we feel that we need to talk about it.
100%.
Now, we acknowledge, and I think this is kind of a flex, but we don't have kids.
Oh, it's definitely a flex.
Okay.
I'm going to take every moment of that flex.
But we feel like we've spent enough time at Disney and in Disney-related vacations to see what works from a parenting perspective and what doesn't. And again, this is purely from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah. Everybody parents differently. We get that. Mm-hmm. We understand that you probably may not agree with everything we say. Mm-hmm. And that's okay because our opinion doesn't matter.
Right.
You get to raise your kids the way you want to raise your kids.
Right. And as long as you raise them as good people,
right,
that's really the only thing that matters. And we will judge you for that.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And I'll judge you for the way you raise your kid, but that doesn't mean you have to change. Right?
Right. So the goal here is not an educative episode on how to properly parent your children. We're going to be sharing some funny anecdotes, observations, maybe some useful tips, and maybe even raise some sympathetic solidarity for those parents that are trying to make these vacations as magical as possible, because we know how expensive they are for us.
Yes.
And adding Rugrats on top of all of that, plus all the stuff that comes with Rugrats, all the things the Rugrats want and need and all the things, we feel you.
Yes.
And we applaud you.
100%. And if you're one of those folks like us that doesn't have kids, this is also an episode for you to band up in solidarity with us and be like, yes.
Team No Kid.
That's who we are.
That's right. Disney adults with no children.
I need to put that on a sign or a t-shirt.
What, that's who we are?
Yeah. Disney adults with no children.
Okay.
I think something like, or it's a good chant if we're ever picketing at Disney World.
All right, we're not going to talk about that, but we need merch or something. I don't know.
We do.
come up with all these great ideas, and then it never goes anywhere.
Yeah, we never put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, we should.
We should. We'd be the
anybody-
only ones that would wear them. But
Well, if anybody's listening out there that happens to be a good graphic artist and does T-shirts, let us know.
yeah.
Let's talk collab.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is let's talk a little bit about our last trip.
Okay.
So one of the things that I definitely wanted to make sure we brought up in this is the dichotomy of different parenting styles that you see at Disney, right?
Right, and it doesn't have to be any sort of length of time apart from each other when they're noticed. I mean, I think one of the examples you're thinking about happened a table apart from one another.
Oh yeah, we were sandwiched in between two
Yes.
very different parenting
Yes.
styles at Ohana for dinner.
Yes.
On our last trip.
100%. This is where we're going.
Yeah. So
Yes.
do you want to talk a little bit about that dinner experience?
I'm going to let you do that because I was still in the throes of not feeling very well. So I saw what was happening and I observed what was happening. But the sick part of me was like, I can't now.
I just can't with these people.
I simply do not have the capacity to can right now.
Right. That's too funny. Okay, so we go to Ohana for dinner, and
Fabulous experience, by the way.
experience, great dinner, great server, all of the things. If you know it's family style food, it's not. I wouldn't say it's out there food, but for a picky eater, it might be a little out there.
Yeah, it's different because it's a lot of different flavors that not a lot of places offer. There's some different things texturally that I think could come off as a little bit weird. I would go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think it's a little bit overhyped.
I do too. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Right.
If you care more about our opinion about Ohana, let us know, and we'll do an entire episode on the two different meals that we've had at Ohana over the years.
Yes.
And share lots of opinions about it. But the first table that sat down next to us, so the three of us in our party grabbed our table, we got our drink order, and the first course was there, and then here comes
Family A.
I'm going to say Family A. I'm going to say sorority girl Barbie and her husband and their two kids. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You are so not wrong. But the reason I'm laughing is because that is so perfect. Like, yes.
She was, I don't even want to guesstimate ages, but she was younger than he was.
Yes. But not like grossly.
Not grossly, but significantly.
Yes.
She was a trophy wife for sure.
100%.
And their kids were loud.
Bordering on obnoxious.
Right. Like the octopus from Finding Nemo.
Yes.
I'm obnoxious.
Well, that was a seahorse.
Oh, that's
but
the seahorse. That's
yes.
right. I'm obnoxious. These kids were like
Obnoxious.
They didn't care who was around them. They were there for themselves, which again, if you're listening to this and you have kids, you know that kids make everything about themselves.
Well, but it was very apparent where they got that because
Right.
mom and dad, everything was about them as well.
Right.
So I mean, those acorns did not fall far from that tree.
Right. It's basically a pre-fee meal that they were asking for lots of modifications on. They were wanting this particular thing to come out first for the kids, and each of the kids had their own iPad with a different show on it, and
which they did not bother to turn the volume down on.
They didn't put the kids in headphones. They didn't turn the volume down. The kids, if the kid didn't get the drink of something that they wanted in the moment, the kid would scream. The kids were up running around the restaurant. Just, I would say, like, their parenting style was very, oh no, don't do that. That's bad. Don't do that. You should stop doing that. You stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm going to take your iPad away, but I'm really not. I'm going to take this away, but I'm really not. You're not going to get this. We're going to have to. The entire meal was like that.
It was parenting for the sake of appearances, but not real parenting, in my opinion.
Right. They had no intention of disciplining or trying to control their kids.
No.
To put a positive spin on it, they were letting their kids be who the kids wanted to be.
And they were on vacation, so
right.
We don't know if at home it was a little bit more structured. I would doubt it, just seeing the behavior,
right.
But we don't know.
Right,
we
don't know.
Speculate.
I get to judge
sure.
because I'm sitting on the outside looking in. I have no clue what they were going through.
And we didn't say anything. It wasn't like we were like, "You're terrible parents."
Right.
Like we would never.
I may have been thinking it, but I didn't say it.
Thinking is not saying.
So compare that to the table that was on the other side of us that came maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, where the kids of similar ages, which the kids were probably 6 and 3, 6 and 2,
probably somewhere in there,
and the other table was probably 8 and 5, somewhere like that. So very similar-ish ages, but definitely maturity levels were different.
Yes.
But some of that, I think, was parenting, too. Because the second family comes in, they sit down, the kids sit in their chair, they engage in conversation with their parents. They're talking about what happened during the day. Just very polite conversation. They're being nice to the wait staff. Nobody's screaming. Nobody's running around. And just perfect, like in my opinion, perfect behavior for a restaurant setting.
Yeah. And that wasn't particularly like an early time that we were there either.
No.
And I'm sure they had been going all day. And I mean, most kids, when you get to that time of day, are tired.
Right.
But these kids were great.
Yeah. 100%. And our reservation was like at 8.
Yeah.
7:30 or 8, something like that. So pretty late for kids to be eating.
Yeah.
But I think that dichotomy, which is why we wanted to do this episode, is there were a few things on that trip where I noticed parents doing things that I think were right or that I think were wrong, and just kind of made me go insane. Like we never let anything ruin our trip like that. But if you had been in the right mood, that first table that we were talking about, sorority Barbie and the clan, could have potentially ruined that experience.
Yes. But we went into it with, I think, it's like, it is what it is.
Right. You know you're at Disney. You know you're going to run into 1,000 different parenting styles and 1,000 different styles of kids, all of that kind of stuff. I think that's 100%. You have to go in expecting that. So that's tip number 1.
Right.
Is you have to go in expecting that kids are going to annoy you.
Right. And with that said, I mean, I think this is a good rule of thumb. Disney, not wherever you are, any point in life, you don't really know what's truly going on for somebody.
Right.
You're just catching them in what could be a really bad moment or a really bad hour for them.
Right.
So let it be.
Yeah.
Just be a kind person.
Yep, 100%. 100%. And just because I remember all the times that I was annoyed by children doesn't mean I'm always annoyed by children.
No, some kids are great.
Yeah.
I like to get them sugared up and send them home.
Exactly. That's the beautiful part of being aunt and uncle, right?
That's right.
Okay, so where do we want to go from there? I think that was the impetus for the episode. Where do we want to go from there?
Okay, well, I want to go back to something that I observed on not our most recent trip, but the trip that we were on like a year ago.
Like last February.
Yes.
Our Festival of the Arts trip.
Yes. And I will make no excuses for this parenting choice at all, ever. Primarily because it's against the law.
Oh, yeah.
So we were in the Germany pavilion grabbing a snack. We had done the mobile order thing, which, great tip. But you had gone in to get our order, and I was just sitting down waiting. There was a family of probably 2 adults and 3 kids of varying ages between 4, 7, and probably 12. So there was a range of kids. All of a sudden, I see Dad giving the middle child, who couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, a drink of his beer.
Oh, Jesus.
And then laughing because the kid didn't like the beer. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not just bad parenting. That's illegal.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing that helps Disney lose liquor licenses.
That's correct.
You like drinking around the world, don't do crap like that.
Right. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that I actually was looking around for like a hidden camera or something, because I felt like I was the one being punked and I had no involvement in what was happening at all. But I'm just like, am I really seeing this? They're giving their child an alcoholic beverage. No.
Right. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Don't do that, people.
Yeah.
That's one time where we will judge your parenting. Hardcore and not forgive you for it.
Yeah, that's no.
If you're at home and you want to do a joke of letting your kid have a sip of beer, you do you. But in a place where people can get in trouble for it, the cast member that served that could get in trouble for it, all sorts of things could go haywire there. And you could get banned for life from a place you like going just because you thought it was funny to give your kid a sip of beer.
Yeah, and talk about ruining a vacation.
Right.
Because maybe that was just your first day there.
Right.
Glad you enjoyed your 15 minutes at Epcot, because we can never come back.
Right.
Yeah, don't do that, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Don't.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, so there's 2 like very personal stories, and we might well 3 so far in this episode, and we'll probably get into more as we dig into a couple other things. But let's talk a little bit, and this one is I'm going to even expand it to more than parenting advice. This could be parenting for your elders as well. Let's talk strollers and scooters.
Oh, yes.
So the other thing that I noticed in our last trip is I thought Disney had rules about the 18-wheel strollers that were all side by side.
They did. I don't know how clearly. I don't know how strict they are about that or how people are getting around those rules, because we definitely saw things that were in violation.
Yeah.
Again, because we don't have children, we don't have to worry about strollers. I honestly don't pay probably as close of attention as I should to those rules with what I do elsewhere. But yeah, I don't know. But I thought that was really interesting as well. And you pointed it out a couple of times. And I'm like, well, yeah. What? How
is that legal? Or dragging a wagon around.
Right. Now that I know is against the rules. Yeah.
So
I don't know.
How do they get them in?
I don't know. Because you have to go through bag check. So I don't know.
Oh, well. But anyway, strollers can be the death of you. Just
literally,
just like scooters can be the death of you.
Yes.
That's why I kind of loop them together, because it's old people and babies. So I think like you have to watch out with strollers, because, and some of this I think is you're on vacation, you're in Disney, you lose awareness.
Right.
So you're just walking along. And if you're not thinking about it, walking in a straight line is hard. Or you're in kind of an open area walking how you want to walk, and then you're in a pinch point or a crowded spot, and all of a sudden you're taking people out at the ankles.
Right. Or you're driving the scooter or stroller on autopilot because your mind is in 15 different places about how am I going to get to the next thing, or dining reservation, or whatever the case may be, and you just kind of lose all sense of reality.
Right. So if you are not a stroller user and you value your ankles, try your hardest not to walk directly in front of somebody pushing a stroller or on a scooter. It's hard because they're everywhere.
Right.
But I think so that's like the parenting tip. Since this is kind of a parenting tips from people without kids to people with kids, be more aware, please.
Right.
Pay attention to where you're going, and that holds true for scooter people as well. Just because you're on something that moves faster than people do on feet or on foot, don't run people over. Don't cross all the way across. Don't go 7 wide in your strollers and your scooters as you're walking through so people can get around you in different ways. Just be aware of where you're at, I think, is the parenting thing that I want to point out there, is that awareness will take you a long way.
Right. And don't expect people to move out of your way just because you are pushing a stroller or riding on a scooter.
Right.
Like, they have just as much right to the space on the walkway as you do, even though you're in a vehicle with wheels on it and they're not. That doesn't mean that they have to get out of your way.
Right. Yeah, everybody gets to own their own space.
Right. I have trouble with that. You know that.
Yes, you do. You never like to own your own space. But you get to have your elbow to elbow room around you, and you shouldn't have to be shoved into by a stroller. Or, like, again, sort of my annoyance at kids, and I don't blame the kids for this, I blame, again, parents not necessarily paying attention, is you're just walking along and then all of a sudden you get headbutted in the crotch by some kid because they're not paying attention and they're little. Maybe you missed them in the crowd so you can't step out of their way, and all of a sudden you're taking a header to the nuts.
I can't say that I've ever had that happen, but I empathize with those of you that have.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
Little kids are looking around there. I don't expect little kids to be paying attention.
Right, but I do expect them to be close enough that an adult can grab them and say,
Yes.
look where you're going.
Yep. And we've seen that.
Yes.
Like, let's talk about some of the positive things we've seen as well.
Absolutely.
I've overheard many different conversations of that wouldn't happen if you were paying attention. Like, using it as a moment to teach your kid. It's
Right.
a teachable moment everywhere you go.
Right, or you need to be, like, watch where you're going. Be aware of what's around you. Like, don't get in people's way.
Right. Yeah, they have every right to be here as well. Let's go back to the fireworks show that we sat. We have the place where we love to go watch fireworks in Magic Kingdom, and we're just sitting there, and it started out as such a positive potential teaching moment, and then they just let it fail. Like, we were sitting there, and all of a sudden the kids were standing in front of us on the ledge so we couldn't see. Mom caught it and said, hey, make sure the people behind you can see. And that was it. Kids didn't move. Kids didn't get out of the way. Kids didn't care if the people behind them. That's, as a parent, that's where I would expect you to take a moment and say, no, get your ass off the rail so the person behind you can see.
Right. And it could have been a moment of clarity that the kids needed, because they did turn around and look behind them, but they didn't look down. Like, they
Right.
didn't look immediately behind them where we were. They looked behind
Right.
them and probably thought, well, I'm taller than all these people, so what people are you talking about? And Mom was not specific as far
Right.
as who she was actually talking about.
Right.
So I don't really blame the kids in that situation, but at the same time, like, really?
Yeah. So here's my thing. In every one of these stories, I do not blame the kid.
No.
Kids don't know better.
No. They need to be taught.
Right. That's why it could be a good teachable moment. Like, hey, you're in this world. You're in this park with 50,000 other people. They want to have the same experience that you're having. So it's as big a part of you helping them have that experience as them helping you have a good experience. Like, you hear, like, I hear stories of people that try and go to a parade, and the Disney adults get there and they're standing in the front row and they won't let a little kid push in front of them. That, to me, is just as bad as the parent not telling the kid to get off the rail.
Right.
Like, I want you to have a good time. Mm-hmm. I love Disney so much. I want you to love Disney as much as I do.
As a responsible, appropriate Disney adult,
Right.
That's the way it should be.
If I'm just throwing out my shoulders so little kid can't get in front of me, then I'm not doing that. Now, what I'm going to have trouble with in that situation is if family of 8 comes, 2 adults and 6 little kids, and all 8 of them want to get in front of me when I've been sitting there for an hour waiting for the parade in my spot. I'm going to have trouble with that. Sure, the kids, I'll take a half step back so the kids can get in front of me. Parents, watch your kids from 3 rows back. You chose not to get here on time.
Right.
I want the kids to have a good time. I don't give 2 poops about you.
Well, and at the same time, I think we need to talk about the parents that put their kids on their shoulders.
Yes.
For fireworks, because no. Number one, that's not safe. It's really not. I don't care if you have a good grip on your kid or not.
Yeah.
If they get startled by a loud noise and fall backwards, what are you going to do when their brains are all over Main Street, USA?
Right. That and the people behind them can't see.
Right. Even if they are filming through an iPad.
Right.
Which that's a different discussion for a different episode.
Yeah. That'll be our next What Do We Hate About Disney episode. That's too funny.
So let's turn this part over to our Hangar Bar crew.
Okay.
Have you ever been taken out by a rogue stroller or scooter? And do you think that parents sometimes use strollers, as battering rams?
To get people out of their way?
To get people out of their way. Let's discuss on our socials.
Yeah.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, wherever else. Blue Sky.
Not very active on Blue Sky or Reddit yet, but we're there.
Yep, we're there. Let us know.
Yeah, would love that.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about meltdowns.
Oof. Okay.
Tell us about some of the meltdowns that you've maybe witnessed, Candice.
I mean, I've seen everything from a meltdown because someone was denied a particular kind of snack that they wanted at that particular moment, or a bubble wand that they walked past and didn't buy, or any number of other things. Or maybe it was just an I'm too hot and I don't want to do this anymore kind of meltdown.
Right.
They happen all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time. And again, this is not unique to just children.
No, this is people, like real people.
Real people.
Big people meltdowns. That's what I meant, not real people.
Real people meltdowns. You're not a real person until you're old enough to drink.
Well, no, that's not what I meant.
I know. We know what you meant.
Big people meltdowns.
Yes.
That's happened too. Like where seemingly happy family goes into Snipeville, USA because for whatever reason. I mean, I think I've probably heard it all.
Well, you damn near left me at Disney.
What? True. But you pushed...
Not like left me. Like you almost left me in the moment, not like divorced me, left me.
Right. Well, we weren't married yet, so...
Yeah, we were.
Were we?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a long time ago, but yes, I had about had my limit with you and you're going the wrong way, even though you had never been there before.
You can tell she's still bitter, folks.
I'm just thinking about the audacity that it took for you to behave like that. But, I mean, I wasn't like kicking and screaming on the ground. I just expressed my opinion and my thoughts about what was happening in the moment sternly, and then we went about our day.
Right. As soon as I got smart enough not to turn and walk the way I thought I was going, and just in my head said, "Okay, we're going the wrong way. I'm gonna be proven right," and then I was proven wrong. Spoiler alert. If you're married, she's always right, folks. She is always right.
Thank you, dear. Anyway.
Yes. So the other thing that I see a lot, where I see a lot of meltdowns, is in ride queues.
Yes.
Like kids swinging on ropes and like pushing people around and not paying attention and that kind of thing. So talk to me a little bit about how you maybe see folks avoiding line meltdowns.
So I think it really depends on the age of the kid that we're talking about, because sometimes kids are just too little and it's a lot for them to be expected to wait in any sort of line, much less one that's an hour and a half long.
Right.
I guess that's one thing that makes the rider swap experience such a beautiful thing, because for those that don't know how that works, if a child is too small to go on an attraction or doesn't want to go or whatever the case may be, one parent can wait for the child outside the queue, talk to a cast member before one of the members gets into the queue, explain the situation. The cast member will help you do what's called a rider swap, where one member of the party goes on the ride, and then when they get off, they come out, find the child, and then the next parent can go and get on the attraction right away rather than having to wait through the line again.
Right.
But I think that makes so much sense, because then the kid is not left to just stare in very close proximity to somebody's rear end.
Right.
Or swing on a rope or climb on a wall, which they shouldn't be doing anyway because it's not safe.
Right.
They're going to get exposed to more germs if they're touching every single surface that there is known to man. It's just a handful of reasons why kids shouldn't. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be, I don't know what this is going to be, but like my thought process here is, if you brought your kids on vacation, yes, it's your vacation too, but you have to kind of plan around them and their needs and their wants and their attention spans,
yes,
and their energy levels and their tolerance for things that are outside of their schedule.
Right. Know your kids.
Yes. And don't push them further than they can be pushed.
Right. That's why you can go back to the room for a midday nap.
Absolutely.
That's why you can. All of those things are possible to do. I know you spent a ton of money to be there and you feel like not being in the park is not maximizing the money that you're spending, but you are going to have a better time if your kid is not miserable.
Right. And you're going to be able to tell happy stories and happy memories.
Right.
Rather than, well, we got asked to leave Magic Kingdom because my child punched Mickey Mouse.
Right. What kind of temper tantrum is that? What kind of meltdown? Would that be like a just full-on rage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like, I am mad at the world and I don't care
Right.
anymore about anything.
Right.
This happens now.
Right. Bring it on, mouse.
This ends here.
So I think a couple other things that you can do, like in long queue lines. So 2 things. The lightning lane process, use it.
Yes.
If your kids aren't going to do well in line, make sure you are using your lightning lanes the best way you know how.
Right.
To minimize the amount of time you have to spend in line.
Right.
That's the only time I will tell somebody to avoid the queue. If your kid can't handle queues, don't do the queue.
Right.
Go through the lightning lane. The other thing you can do, and this is one of those genius things I've seen people do, as long as you're paying attention and moving when you're supposed to, play games. They even do that in the app for you.
There's the Play Disney app.
Many of the queues have Play Disney things like the Soarin' queue has trivia that you can play. All of Galaxy's Edge has games that you can play through the Play Disney app. So many of the different queues have different games that you can play. But the one that I've seen that I think is the easiest to do is the game called Heads Up?
Yes.
There's a Disney pack of that for your phone. I've seen so many people break out their phone and just play Heads Up. As long as you're paying attention and moving when the queue moves, I think that's genius.
Right, because it keeps your kids engaged with you as a family, and yet you're burning your time the same way you would as if you were just standing there.
Right.
So have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. Give your kids a hidden Mickey book. And let that say, hey, I think there's probably some hidden Mickeys in this queue line. Let's look for them. Or the queue that I always think about that I think folks get bored in really easily and they shouldn't is the Midway Mania queue.
Oh yeah, fantastic queue.
From what's the projector Viewmaster slides that have images from all the different Disney movies and all of those kind of things that there's, again, point the detail out to your kids. If they think they're just standing in line for the sake of standing in line, that's when you're going to have a meltdown.
Right. And for that cue specifically, like, point out to the fact that you are inside of a cardboard box.
Right.
Like, and I think, I don't know this for sure, but I think the parents would get a lot of enjoyment out of that as well, because as they're pointing things out to their kids, maybe they're realizing something that they've not seen before or noticed before.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to put this squarely on the parents. How many of the parents just don't care? They're there to get on as many rides as possible because they're at Disney.
Right. Which, okay, we're going to have this conversation again, but I've said this 1,000,001,000,001 times. Even if you spent a month at Walt Disney World and you had park tickets for pretty much every single day of that month, you are never, ever, ever going to see everything and do everything in a single trip. So don't try. Like, what I recommend to people is make your top 5 absolute must-do list for the park that you're going into. Plan your lightning lanes accordingly. Anything else you get to do is icing on the cake.
Yep. 100% agree. 100% agree.
But not only take care of your kids and know when they need a break, take care of yourselves as well.
And know when you need a break.
Yep. Make sure that you're hydrating. Make sure that you take a rest when you need to, because, I mean, being around all of that stimulus all the time is a lot.
Yes.
And people get overwhelmed and they get grumpy and they get tired and hot and all the other things. Honor yourself.
Yep.
Like, take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of a kid.
Exactly. Preach.
Now, who can argue with that?
What other... So let's stay in queues just for a second. The other thing, like in queues, paying attention to make sure the line moves when the line is supposed to move. But also, if your kid ends up with their back towards the direction that the line is flowing, does that make sense?
Yes.
I've been run into so many times because the kid's walking backwards trying to talk to their parents or play heads up while they're moving, that all of a sudden they just run into you, and it just, that kind of thing drives me as nuts as well. So just, I think my overall theme for this episode is pay attention.
Right, and be aware.
Be aware of your surroundings. We are in this together. Like, right now in our world, we need to remember that we are all in this together.
Right.
We get one life.
Right.
Why live it miserably?
Right. I agree.
So why make other people miserable when you don't have to?
Right.
And if you can be aware of your surroundings and help someone else have a better day, 100% you should do it. But so many people get stuck in this, I'm in my bubble, I'm here for my trip, I'm here for my enjoyment, and the my word keeps coming. Every time I go to Disney, I'm here for our enjoyment.
Right.
If everybody goes into it in that way, we have a much better Disney.
Right. And not only is it not cool to get run into if there's a kid that's not paying attention, is also a safety issue, because if they're not paying attention to where they're walking and they suddenly turn around and walk face first into a wall, that's not going to be fun for anybody in that area.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Okay. So let's talk a little bit. Well, first, before we move on, anything else that you want to bitch about for parents? Again, I want to make sure we're this is coming across right. We are not complaining about kids in the park.
No. I mean, it would be weird. I'm not saying that I wouldn't suggest to Disney that they do an adults only sort of event or something like that in the parks, but on a consistent basis, that would just be weird.
Right.
Like, creepy weird.
Yes. Yeah.
But let's go ahead and throw this particular topic out to our crew and have them join us on social media and discuss the types of different meltdowns that they've seen, either adults or children.
Okay.
And then if they feel comfortable enough, share with us a time that they have maybe felt like having a meltdown themselves. Because I know I've had several.
Yes. Yes. What is your preferred meltdown type?
My preferred meltdown type is I need a snack.
I'm hangry.
I'm hangry. I'm hot. I need a snack. I need someplace to sit. Inside or outside, it doesn't matter. And I just want to people watch and be quiet for a minute.
So you're the silent person when you're having a meltdown.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I need to process everything and get refocused.
Right. My meltdown style of choice is refusing to move.
Oh.
You know what I mean when I say that?
Yes, I do.
Like when all of a sudden I've had enough of people thinking I'm invisible.
Yeah, you just hulk up and are just there.
I just kind of bow up and I just walk a straight line.
Yeah.
You either get out of my way or I'm going to shoulder check you.
And I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
I've seen you do that to a teenage girl.
Right. And the only time I won't do that is like we're going to run square on into each other.
Right.
Like I'm not going to headbutt you. I'll take a step out of the way. But if you have your head down in your phone and you're not paying attention, I will shoulder check you. Like not throw a shoulder, but I just don't move.
Right.
I own my space.
So no personal foul, but
Right. I own my space.
Right, and no targeting.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my meltdown type.
Okay.
Yeah.
That tracks actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple more things for this episode that maybe we want to talk about. What are some times we feel like we've seen parents do it right outside of what we've maybe already talked about, and what did we see them doing?
So on our last trip, there was a mom who had her 2 sons with her, and they were kind of just hanging out. It was right after we got off of Galaxy's Edge.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just kind of hanging out, and she had brought some snacks for them in with her, so she didn't buy the snacks in the park, but she had them in her park bag, and she was giving them snacks. And they were just taking time, and she was making sure that they had hand sanitizer for before they ate the snacks and hand wipes for after they ate the snacks and something to eat and something to drink. And she was just having them just kind of chill for a minute and take their time and not run around while they were eating and all these other things. And I think that was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Because she was having conversation with her kids while they were having a snack and regrouping about what they had done that day, what they were going to do that day, all of the other things that just kind of solidified that trip.
Right.
It was a beautiful thing.
Yep. Yeah, I love moments like that where you see parents like truly engaging with their kids. Like having those moments of magic that you get to see. Mm-hmm. Because so often you hear so much griping and you see like the ugly side of those moments. Not very often do you get to see the magic moments of my kid's eyes light up when this character comes by, or I'm going to put my kid in a position where they can take advantage of something. Those are the moments that I think are great. And I don't really pay attention to those kind of things very often. I don't know whether it's my personality type or what. I notice the bad things more than I notice the good.
That's human nature.
But I know those happen because you see a lot of happy kids around that are just looking up and are just wowed. And a lot of that comes from how their parents are setting them up. Mm-hmm. Kudos to the real MVPs that keep their kids kind of together during what can be a tough time to keep kids together.
Yep.
I'm trying to think if there was any time on the last trip where I saw a parent do something really good. And I don't think nothing's popping out. So if it does, I'll put it in the show notes or add an editor's note in the edit. Okay. So let's talk about some other things that parents could do to help their kids be immersed in the moment. Like you talked about having snacks that are there. We've talked a little bit about taking a break, going back to the resort and hanging out for a bit and taking a nap or whatever. What are some other tips that you think we as non-children people, what do we think parents could do to help in those situations?
I think knowing your kids' limits is a big thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially with characters. Yeah, it's great to have pictures of your kids with Minnie and Mickey and everybody else and getting autographs and hugs and all these other things. But keep in mind, those characters can be very intimidating when you are face-to-face with them because they're big.
Yep.
So know your kids' limits. Talk to them. If there's any hesitation whatsoever, and you know your kids better than anybody, so if you can sense that there's going to be a meltdown happening, if you push them much further toward Pooh Bear, don't.
Yeah.
Like
Nobody wants a picture of their kid crying with a character.
No. And the characters are trained to kind of be able to read kids and know what's going to happen, and they approach them cautiously in the case of a meltdown or something like that. But as parents, you've got to be responsible and you've got to know your kid.
Yep.
And don't create a traumatic experience for them just because you wanted a picture.
Right. That you're not going to use anyway because they're screaming and crying in it.
That sounds so judgmental of me, and I guess it kind of is, but...
It's true, though. Like, you look at so many people that are forcing their kids into those situations, those pictures are unusable. Mm-hmm. Other than blackmail when they're 18.
And I guess I have seen, like, and this was not on a recent trip or anything, but I remember being in the Haunted Mansion queue one time, and you get into that first room where the picture above the mantle changes from the old man to the skeleton. Mm-hmm. Poor kid freaked out like meltdown city. And the cast member was trying to help both the adult and the child understand that the ride is really not that scary and it's going to be okay. But the child was just not having it. And so parent that was with the child said, you know what, this is just not for us. We're not going to do this.
Right.
And the cast member helped them out.
And that's what you do. If you don't know what your kid's limit is, test that limit, but notice when they're starting to spiral.
Right. Before
and say,
it spirals.
Let me pull you out of this situation. It's okay that you don't want to do this.
Right. This is fine.
Yeah.
Thank you for trying.
Yeah. We tried.
Yep.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
We can watch a ride through or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you can...
And that's the other thing that I would suggest to parents is make sure you're setting those clear expectations with your kids, especially the toddlers to the, 8, 9, 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Probably, and maybe a little older than that. But
depending on
2 to 10, set the expectation. Haunted Mansion is a great example. Parts of that are scary. If you don't know the story, you don't know what's coming, the corpse bride,
well, you even think about the picture part with the lightning and the thunder.
Lightning and the thunder. Lots of kids are scared of that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just important to say, hey, this first part is a little scary. Just remember, it's an attraction.
It's just a story.
It's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Do you want to try? Mm-hmm. Are you okay if you get a little bit scared?
I'll be right here with you. It'll be fine.
We're going to be in the same vehicle together. I won't let anything bad happen to you. Do you want to try? Set that expectation. If you just, it's going to be funny because they're going to get into this and not know what's coming.
That's not cool.
There's a difference between that with Slinky Dog on a roller coaster and getting the wits scared out of you in something like Haunted Mansion. Mm-hmm. Or like your nephew with the Snow White Scary Adventure ride.
Right, and that was not done because we thought it was funny. We had no idea what we were going into.
Right. It wasn't malicious, but if you had set that expectation with him, he either would have been able to opt out or he would have been prepared for it.
Right. But we didn't know.
Right. So if you know, that's why doing research about some of these things is pretty important as well. Mm-hmm. Like, know what you're getting into. Like, again, not a parent, so my advice means absolutely zilch, but make sure you understand what you're getting into so you can help your kids understand what they're getting into.
Right.
That's important.
And honor them for that. Like, if they don't feel like they can handle it, maybe talk about why or what their concerns are, but by all means, honor that.
Yep. Use it as a teachable moment every single time. Every single time. Okay. what are some other tips that you would suggest for parents? So put your travel professional hat on.
Okay.
What are some things that you would suggest to parents to make sure that they have the best time and that they're getting the most out of their vacation?
Okay, so I guess the big thing again is make your lists of your must-dos and don't make them long lists because you don't need that disappointment. Use your lightning lane appropriately. Have your kids be involved in part of the planning process. If they are old enough to express and understand what they want to do and what they want to see and maybe some of the characters they want to meet,
Right.
have them be part of that process so they feel like they have some investment in it. I would also say packing snacks is a great idea. Instacart before you get to your resort, have some water, have some snacks from a grocery store. It's going to be much cheaper than buying them on Disney property. I would also maybe suggest pre-purchasing and taking some small souvenirs with you.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
So that when you get to the park and your kid's having a meltdown over some drippy plastic bubble wand that they can't have, you can reach into your park bag and pull something out that they can have that you brought from home, but they don't know you brought it from home, and say, here, why don't you have this instead?
Right. That's a great tip.
And then, don't be afraid to, have fun with your kids. Let yourself be a kid too, but be a guiding force for your child.
Right.
Have fun with them. Help them understand that this is some people's only trip of a lifetime.
Right.
And maybe even make up games. Plan scavenger hunts for them. I know they've got the Kid Cot thing over in Epcot where you can do that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no saying that you can't do that in all of the parks. Pull up a guide map and plot out different things and okay, we're going to go look for Indiana Jones in Hollywood Studios. Let's go find him.
Right.
And just make them part of the experience and not just dragging around a theme park in the hot.
Right. That, again, such a great idea. And I love that idea of scavenger hunt or a hide and seek. Not hide and seek's probably not the right word, but go find something.
Yeah, don't hide your children in Disney World.
Well.
No.
If you're not careful, I'm going to leave you here on the small world.
That's where the naughty children go.
Right. That's the one thing I would say if I had kids. Look, if you don't start behaving, we're going on Small World. I'm leaving you there.
Yeah. Well, tell a cast member.
You too will become a little child animatronic.
Which costume do you like the best?
Right. We're going to make you stand next to the one-eyed hippo.
The drunk hippo.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Okay. What else? I think we're getting close to being able to wrap this one up. We don't have all the tips for parents because we're not. We know we're not parents. We like to bitch about things, and I think we have some good tips because
we have salty opinions.
We have good perspective too, right?
Right.
We've seen a lot.
We have seen a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. Keep safety in mind first and foremost. Don't let your kids run around.
Right.
They're going to get hurt. They're going to fall. They're going to trip. They're going to do something. They're going to run into somebody. Something. Don't let your kids run. I used to be hardcore against quote unquote leashes for children.
Right.
Not so much anymore because I think they do more good than harm when used appropriately, just like for a dog.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying put a choke chain on your child.
If you need to, you need to.
Hey. But, if it's going to help you keep an eye on them and keep them safe and all these other things, by all means, nobody's going to judge you for it. I think that's the big thing. Just remember that we're all in this together, and it's those around you. It's their vacation as much as it is yours. And yes, you paid a lot of money to be there, and you paid a lot of money to get your kid there. So did everybody else.
Right. Right. Okay, let's kind of end with, I think, a fun question.
Okay.
Let's make the assumption we had kids.
Uh-huh.
What's one thing that would be on your absolutely not list?
Tell me more.
So, if we had kids and we were at Disney, what's something that no matter what, you just absolutely wouldn't do? Would you wait in an hour-long line to meet Bluey?
Me personally, no. But if that was my kid's favorite character and that was like one of the main impetus for getting us there, yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. Like, you would do that. But even with kids, what would be your absolutely not? We are not doing that kind of thing at Disney if we did have kids.
Can I say Frozen Ever After?
Yes. Absolutely not.
You can do that. You can do the Frozen sing-along. I don't need any part of that.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all, Candice.
How about you?
That is a tough one. I think it would have to be, that is such a tough question because for the most part, I like doing everything at Disney, but some of those character meets, like some of the lesser known characters, I probably would talk very seriously about whether or not we really wanted to stand in line to do that. Like if Vampirina, or some of those,
Nancy.
yeah, Fancy Nancy or Disney Junior characters or whatever, I'd be like, no.
But
that's a long line. We are not going to do that.
But let's put this in perspective. If we have kids, those are the kind of things that we watch on television.
Yeah, still, no.
So we would know those characters that much better.
The kid might, but no.
Okay. You can handle the Frozen mess. I will stand in line for the Disney Junior characters.
I will go drink, and you can just stand in line with the Disney Junior characters.
Okay. Now, one thing I would draw my line on that is I'll take you to a meet and greet, but we are not going to Hollywood and Vine to meet them for breakfast.
Oh, yes.
No.
That's not that great of a breakfast anyway.
No.
And it's just annoying.
Yes.
Just no. Okay. I thought that would be a fun way to kind of wrap up. So as we end this one, folks, just again, shout out to the folks that can make it work.
Yes.
Parenting at Disney is hard work.
Listen,
we know
parenting in general is hard.
Right.
That's one of the reasons we haven't done it.
Right. Exactly.
And won't do it.
But parenting at Disney is next level.
Yes.
Like being able to get your kids for however long of a trip that you're going on, that they're super excited to be there, and they're eating things they normally don't eat. They're drinking things they normally don't drink. They're seeing things they never get to see. They're the characters that they only see on TV, they're seeing in person. All of these things that are just raising the excitement level. You as parents have a lot to deal with, and we know that. So shout out to you. You really are the MVP. I will say the realest of the MVPs are the ones that have figured it out and their kids respect the world.
Yes.
So as long as you're working towards that, we don't expect perfection. Mm-hmm. We know kids will be kids every single time.
Yep.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, check us out on our social. Candice gave you a couple question topics to come out to our socials and interact with us on. So we want you to do that. We want you to check out our Patreon. If you like our podcast and you want to listen to it on Friday instead of Monday, you can join our Patreon and get early access to the episodes.
We're also working out some different things at different levels as well.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. We're still really new to this Patreon thing, so we've got a lot to figure out, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Yeah, right now we just know there's a few things, like if you join at the one tier that we have now, we're going to offer you up the chance to pick a topic for the year, and you get early access to the episode. So come check that out. Again, ultimately what we want is for you to listen. We want you to share with your friends. The Patreon is just gravy. We don't expect it. We're going to keep doing this even if nobody joins our Patreon. So just if you would like to support the podcast in that way, you're welcome to. We'd be happy to have you support us, and we thank you 100%. So with that, everyone, remember, there is always a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
And we'll see you real soon.